Brian, remember when Olivia Wilde made Booksmart?
Yes.
What a great movie that was, wasn't it?
Yes. Yes,
Um,
it was.
she's directing another movie
Yeah.
that's
You
getting a
might have
lot of
heard.
buzz
Yeah.
for lots of reasons.
Yeah.
Um, Don't Worry, Darling, with the current it girl in Hollywood, really, Florence Pugh. Um, Olivia Wilde stars in her own, well, features in her own film. Chris Pine, and who the actor that kind of becomes the elephant in the room for reasons outside the film, that would be Harry Styles, who plays Mr. Pugh. Man, people were excited about this, and then it was going to go to the film festivals, and then weird stuff started getting talked about. So instead of a movie about a bunch of 50s housewives who support their husbands who work on this secret project out in the middle of nowhere, and then have weird things happen, we get treated to things like Shia LaBeouf was going to be in the movie but got fired or didn't, and was replaced by Harry Styles, who may or may not have been having or in a relationship with Olivia Wilde during filming. It became a mess. So it kind of overshadowed the film. Although it did get kind of a decent reception at the film festivals, for, take those for what they're worth. They're 4, 6, 12-minute standing ovations.
The fact that they timed them should tell
Yeah, see,
everyone.
that just tells you that they're all bogus. Not
Yeah.
just this one, they're all bogus. Apparently, except for the whale, I'm going to stick with Brendan Fraser. But for purposes of this discussion, let's talk about Don't Worry, Darling. Derivative? Question mark?
Well, I mean, if Stepford Wives is right there, and derivative. Yeah, sort of. Not exactly a new concept of people living in a controlled environment, I guess you would call it.
It Yeah, it's idyllic. They, everyone, they all the wives take ballet together, and they have really weird mantras while they're doing ballet.
And they all listen to essentially state radio and
Right,
state
which
TV.
state? Yeah, Chris Pine is the
Yeah.
dude, and he's everywhere. They go to these glamorous parties, and yeah. So I don't think Harry Styles can act. First, let me just start with that. I don't think he can act. I wasn't impressed with him in Dunkirk, but we all know how I feel about Dunkirk.
Yeah, but he wasn't asked to do anything really in Dunkirk, so that's
Exactly. And they
yeah.
should stop asking him to do things like emote, and not sing, I guess, or dance. Florence Pugh's great, as this weird, you kind of see Yelena Belova in this, when she gets angry. You see her anger, and it's, man, I don't know. There's a lot of style. It's a very pretty movie, but everything's like Technicolor. All the cars are these super bright colors. They're all these classic cars. All the women's dresses are just impeccably fitted and beautifully patterned, and it's always sunny out. And the grass is perfect, and it's just it's a very pretty movie. With not, I like the world we're in that they put together, even though it's going somewhere dark.
Yeah.
It's there, but once it starts to break down, I feel like we're not treated to enough of what's outside of Victory, which is the name of this little enclave in which they work. They work on the Victory Project. We needed more of what's outside Victory to kind of, or maybe not more, just maybe in better spots in the film to make the breakdown of victory more important, I guess. It's a weird dynamic. I don't know what you were thinking going in, and I certainly don't know what you were thinking coming out. So share with the class.
I think if you're going to make a film that raises issues, you should probably comment or have something to say about those issues. I mean, there's a lot of, what freedom of choice and,
Yep.
overstepping bounds and, it being sci-fi-ish. It does hit on a lot of social things that are pretty prominent at the moment regarding women's rights, and but it doesn't ever really have anything to say about any of that. It's really more interested in what it's almost like it's giving you a tour, and you got the tour guide who's pointing things out to you,
Yeah.
but it's the sort of thing like you haven't really, as a viewer, you never really feel like you've really been there, I guess. It never feels solid. It always feels fake, and maybe because we're kind of prepared. You know, maybe the best thing they could have done for this film is to not push the big story and talk about it being more just about a husband and wife having the ideal life, and not introducing the other aspects until later, or sneaking them in quietly. Although I don't know how you do that into the modern world, but
Yeah, well,
it's but
the
when you
need to
go in,
publicize a film to get people to see it
sure,
kind of requires that certain things be
and
done,
it's
I
a
guess.
shame, but I guess I mean, but you know that it's going to go dark pretty quickly. I mean, even maybe before you sit down.
Yeah.
So, I think we're programmed to a certain extent that when we see that 1950s, or the old magazine, everything's great and perfect, wife at the in the kitchen doing her thing in her perfect little apron and whatnot.
Yep.
I think we do question that regardless. I think we look at that and say, okay, this is what's the twist?
Yeah.
So I just I don't really know why this film exists, I guess, because it doesn't really want to say anything. It doesn't really say anything or comment on things.
No, it point you're
It
kind of
raises
you're right.
issues,
It's
and
you use the tour guide analogy for the world. Yeah, and it like points things out but doesn't ever actually explain them or
no, and there
opine
are things that,
really.
yeah, yeah, there's things in there that are just like, okay, that's weird. Are you gonna go back to that? Oh, you're not. It's just weird. Okay. And not that everything in the movie has to have an answer, but something. It has to, it has to feel like it's adding up to something. And ultimately, it was like, I don't know that this added up to much of anything. It wasn't terrible. I mean, Harry Styles, you're not far off. When I don't know that he can act. I mean, I don't even know. There's been talk about what accent he's doing. And I thought initially it was because he was trying to do some weird American accent, but they
But
referred to him as a Brit.
yeah,
And
at the
so it's
end
like,
they say it.
so what in the world, what is the accent you're doing? And why did they not tell you to stop?
Yeah,
At what point didn't they just say, you know what, this isn't going to work. We need you to just say the words,
right.
rather than, because it's all over the place.
Yeah,
Uh,
it really was. It was.
and it's just like, okay, well, if he's, and actually I was thinking through the first half of the film, well, why didn't they just allow him to be British? Why don't they just
Right.
let him use his own voice? There's nothing in this film that suggests that he couldn't be. I mean,
Hmm.
why not? So why not just let him do that? I think directors need to recognize they need to put their actors into a position where they can succeed. So if something
100%.
isn't working, the director needs to go, okay, that's not working. I don't want you to look bad, or for me to look like I couldn't direct you. Let's figure out what your strengths are. Now that you're cast, you're famous, we want all of that hype.
Yep.
So how do we make you look the best? And I don't know that they did that in this, and I don't think they did.
No, they really didn't. Uh, everyone is throwing Stepford Wives out. You did earlier.
Yeah, well,
I,
it's the
I,
obvious.
I said it's closer to The Village than it is
Yeah, that's
Stepford
fair.
Wives.
Sure.
There's, you hate to say too much, but it's kind of like The Matrix, but not.
Yeah,
It's like The Village, but it's
it's a
more The Village than it
religious,
is The
but not.
Matrix, even though certain
Yeah, I
things.
mean, it's this fundamentalism. Yeah,
And escapism, because
yeah,
a lot of it is escapism that was present in The Village. And
yes,
that's where I drew that parallel.
yeah,
It's not containment. It was more the ability to escape to victory, as it was to escape to The Village. So
yeah,
that's why my brain went there. The Stepford Wives, yeah, all the wives are these ideals, but you don't really see anything in situ that would kind of explain that, other than they're all so happy to be there. Unlike
well, yeah,
Stepford Wives, where like wives disappear and
sure,
come back and they're these perfect little robots.
yeah,
So
and
I mean,
it
so
is.
it's
It's different in that regard because not only that, I guess it's kind of swapped around as well because you spend a lot of time with the women in this movie. You don't spend a lot of time with the men. So the
right.
men are the big question marks, really in this film. And again, I don't really feel like I got a satisfactory explanation. I felt um, like someone had a really good pitch
Hmm.
and then they had to make that movie and they couldn't figure out why certain things were certain ways or why people made certain decisions or what it was about, really, any of it. So they just didn't address it. They
No,
just
like I said,
kind of,
it's a neat world by the time you get to the end of it, but they wind up really not doing anything in it or with
yeah,
it.
well, it's like, well, what is this? What is this movie about, really?
Yeah.
And the thing that a lot of people are going to remember the dance numbers from the film, which
Yeah.
have absolutely nothing to do with the film.
No.
They're really visually awesome to look at, but they have no narrative purpose,
No.
really.
I got to the end and I was like, that's pointless. And then they run them through the credits,
Yeah,
and it's just like, I don't, what beauty and symmetry, blah de blah. But
but
again, it
it's
does. But narratively, you're right. There's no
yeah,
reason for them to exist, and
yeah.
it's frustrating.
They're not
To
even the. I mean, as far as like if you were to say, well, yes, but it's a period piece. It's like, well, they're the wrong period
yeah,
piece.
they're the wrong period.
They're just that's not the right decade. So and if you're, I just don't know what they were going for. And I think it's one of those films where you go, well, I think it had potential, but
Had they done
maybe,
something in the world, then yeah, it did. It had
maybe,
potential.
but
Um,
but they just didn't.
they just didn't capitalize on it. That's the sad thing. It's
No,
like I said, and there's not even any. We talked about other films recently, where you're like, well, the movie's not that good, but the performances were good enough to really talk about. I mean, this,
yeah, it's the problem here is the script
yeah,
too. I mean, there's just not. I mean, you know, beyond Harry, everyone else. I mean, well, everyone's fine, I guess, in this
But
film.
that's
But
it.
you feel like the people, that a lot of these actors are capable of something more than just fine, and so that it is a little disappointing. It feels like maybe they got sold on a concept as well and said, "Yo, that sounds really interesting." And oh, who's directing? Oh, they're directing it.
Yeah.
Well, I love the book smart, so well, yeah, let's be part of her next, project. And and I can't help but think that maybe some of the issues that have bubbled over on set is from the fact that no one was ultimately all that satisfied by the movie they made. Because, I mean, there's been notoriously, I mean, when you look at the Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron and Mad Max, they reportedly did not get along at all, and they fought and they fought and fought. But when it came down to when the movie came out, they both of them stood back and said, "Hard to make, but it's a great movie."
Yeah.
They acknowledged, look, we clash, but look at this movie, it's great. Whereas they can't even really do that with this film. They can just say, "Oh, everything's fine, it's fine,"
Yeah.
which is essentially what the movie kind of says itself. It's
Yeah.
fine.
It's
Everything's
fine.
fine.
Don't look too deep. It's fine. Just accept it and move on. It's like, no, I'm not even
And
accepting that as a meta reason for this movie to exist. So that's the sad thing. Don't Worry, Darling opens this week in theaters. Um, maybe if you're a fan, check it
I have
out.
no idea. I have no. I
Yeah,
don't,
it's a tough recommend.
because it's if it was so bad it's good, that would be something, but it's not. Which is, I think, a lot of people were hoping that it would just be terrible.
So you could watch the
But
train wreck.
yeah, but instead you get a movie that's just there.
Yeah,
So how do you get excited for? It's not good. It's not bad. It's just
it's
is.
just there. I mean, this isn't even like Honk for Jesus, where we were like, go see it to watch these, watch Regina Hall and Sterling K.
Yeah. No,
Brown,
there's not that. There's not that.
or yeah, it's not even that. So it's just like, yeah, it's not a train wreck, but it's not like sexy Japanese high speed rail. It's just kind of this Union Pacific cargo train
Mm.
moving performances from point A to point B that, yeah, they have to get there, but it's just not really that good.
Actually, what's funny is like afterwards, a couple of us were doing observations, and I observed, I said, didn't he switch cars? And I was like, oh no, he just went from a hard top to a soft top or whatever.
And he changed colors.
And well, that and my thought was, I don't even care if I'm wrong. Like, because like you're watching a movie and you're trying to figure out, okay, I'm trying to see the glitches in the matrix or whatever. I'm trying to figure out,
Mm,
what are the clues? And then when you get to the end, and honestly, I was like, you know what?
I don't care.
Anything I observed, I don't care.
Yeah,
Right,
doesn't matter.
wrong, I don't want to talk about it. I don't care. So there you go.
That's the sad thing about this film. So there you go. That is Don't Worry, Darling. Olivia Wilde. Go see Booksmart again instead. That's what I'll say. Go see Booksmart again, which I need to do, by the way. It's been a while since I've seen that. So that would be fun to go to. We have got one more big movie coming up next week. We've got a TV show that we're going to talk about, so stay tuned for that if you're a Star Wars fan. And we're going to be at FanX this weekend, so watch social media for that. But until we talk to you again, I am Mark. That is Ryan. Bye, Ryan.
See you guys.
And we'll talk to you all later.